should say. We've got a good show planned tonight. I'm really excited for it. We've got a returning champion. Why not? You can be a champion. David
Sure.
Burr is here again.
What's up?
David, how's it going?
Doing good.
Awesome. And then we also have plans for Chuck Dixon to come. We've sent him the link, and I think he's running just a little bit behind, but we should see Chuck Dixon in here. And so, yeah, that'll be great. In the meantime, though, I mean, we were talking comics a little bit, but I do want to look at this chat. How's this? Getting a super chat before you even go live. That's pretty great. Awesome. Dewin Aether for $1.99. Thank you very much. Says tough crowd. Yeah, great point. Thanks for that super chat. Appreciate it. Let's see. I saw another question. Let's see. There we go. There's one. If it'll work. Show. There we go. When is Downcast 2 coming out? It's a great question. The campaign will probably launch in February. It's not the most ideal time to launch, but November is really not an ideal time. I'm getting all of the print files ready as we speak. I was working on it today. So the goal is to send it to the printer, assuming everything works well. We're going to send it to the printer first thing on Monday and get Downcast 1 going. So once Downcast 1 is fulfilled, then we can do Downcast 2, but it is over the holidays, so that's just not a great time to run a crowdfunding campaign. So I'll probably wait till the beginning of next year, and that's fine because we've already started. Actually, today Nacho has started work on Downcast Part 2. So, and I've got so much I want to tell you about that campaign because I'm excited. There's some new stuff that we're going to be doing with the campaign, just to, I don't know, fill it out a little bit. It'll be a lot of fun. But I don't want to get into it too much because if I talk about Downcast 2 too much, everyone's like, where's Downcast 1? Like, don't get ahead of yourself. But, we've got
I'll tell you that the best campaign I ran as far as dollar value was in February. So I don't think that timing is going to be a problem based on my experience.
Cool.
I've also talked to some other people who've done a lot of campaigns, and they say like time of year for campaigns isn't really strict. They're like the people who just want to buy comics just buy comics whenever. So, I mean, it might cut into someone from getting original art or something really expensive, but it shouldn't really matter too much when you launch it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's, there's definitely, you can improve your chances if you're not December would not be a great time to launch. However, yeah, definitely with crowdfunding, you're bringing your own crowd. So in theory, it would, as long as you've brought people, you can do it for sure.
Because there's very little just organic purchasing. You don't just put it out there and people are like, oh, hey, I'll just bid on this random campaign. I mean, it happens, but it's a small percent of what you're going to make.
Right. Yeah, most of it is going to be from people that are, you've specifically sent there. So Bree Ha'an, I hope I said that right. Bree Ha'an said, I opened the link, but there's no Chuck Dixon inside here. Yeah. I'm excited for Chuck to get here. Don't worry. We sent him the link. We just figured why not start the stream now? We'll get going. In a Disguise says that there's an echo. Sorry about that. Do you have headphones, David, that work?
Yeah, hold on a sec. I can just keep chatting and I'll see if I can get them.
Oh, you're fine. All right. Hello. All sorts of people. Okay, here's a great question for Fatty 057. You should offer both so that for people that missed out like me. Yeah, I am going to overprint Downcast 1 just a little bit so that it will be available on the next campaign. So yeah, I'm going to make it available. You can get Downcast 1. Maybe I'll spill a little bit here. Why not? While we're waiting for Chuck Dixon to show up. You can get Downcast on the next campaign. You'll be able to get Downcast 1. Obviously, you'll get Downcast Part 2. I'm going to be making a supplemental book because I've had a lot of people ask about this, and tentatively I'm going to be titling it The Classified History of Strata, and Strata is the name of the floating city. And so that'll be a little bit different, but I was sort of thinking about it today as I was working, and I had so many great ideas. So that'll be an additional book that's going to go with that. So yeah, you can get everything and be totally caught up on the next campaign, so you won't be missing out. I think that's important. So yeah, I'm overprinting. Chuck
So what?
Dixon lost some pounds. That's funny.
So what is your plan with your overprinting? I mean, are you going to have some sort of online store? Are you going to take them to cons? What do you plan on doing?
So for right now, the overprinting will primarily just be sold on the next crowdfunding campaign. And I do want to go to some conventions and do some selling that way, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing it before February. It'll probably end up being after February, so I'm not entirely sure how that'll work out. But if I do go to convention after, then I can have, Downcast 1 and 2 there available. So that'll be helpful with the printing. It's hard to know with the second campaign how many people missed out on the first one are going to be wanting the second one. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, it's a good idea that you can offer, if you print up like 200 extra, you can put so many in a limited incentive on your next campaign for people who want to catch up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that'll be nice. So I'm also thinking of some other additional things to add to it that might just be fun. And I actually looked up Pog manufacturers. Were you ever into Pogs, David?
No, I remember them, but no, there was never my thing.
Yeah. No, I was into them for a little while when I was a kid, but then they kind of just stopped being interesting.
Yeah, they were like they were just like here overnight and then just gone overnight. I haven't heard people talk about Pog in years.
Yeah. Well, I found a manufacturer that makes Pogs. So I thought I could make Pogs. That could be fun. But it would mainly be, I had to go specifically to a company and ask them about slammers. Somebody who's bringing up slammers, Cyberfrog slammer. Yeah. And I can special order and make slammers. So that's something that I could do. We could have a Pogs and slammers. And like a whole series of Pogs. I thought that could be fun, but at the same time, I'm like, I guess I could also just do a trading card set instead. But I did want to have some other things to go with the campaign. It just makes it fun. Fatty057 says, bring it back. Pogs come and go. Yeah. Yeah, they're around. I've got a manufacturer lined up. Like this is, it's totally doable. And I think we could have some cool art. We could have a whole, and if I had it my way, I would do like a 24-piece set, different pictures on each Pog. Could be cool. We could do 2 different slammers. And it'd be a lot of fun. Or we could do trading cards. This might be worth doing a poll for. I don't know. Just some of the things I've been thinking about just to sort of flesh things out and make it fun. I tried to think of things that I would want.
So I've got a question for you, Clint.
Sure.
So I'm curious, as a conservative or someone who's known to be a conservative comic book creator.
Yeah.
Have you, doing a convention appearance, how do you think you'd be received?
I don't know. I've thought about that a little bit, and it's kind of strange because it feels like there's such a big group of people online that know that I'm conservative and things like that. But then I've got to wonder if I actually went to a convention, probably most people have no idea who I am, I would guess. And so I would probably start with Salt Lake. It's not called Comic-Con. Salt Lake Fan X, just because it's local here to me. And kind of start off with that and see how it goes. But I don't know.
But I assume that Salt Lake probably is a fairly conservative audience.
Utah is. Salt Lake City proper is not so much. But at the convention, you're getting people from everywhere. So I can't imagine it being, I would think it's the safest kind of convention for me, especially because I am local. But yeah, I don't know. And then like I just saw, Ethan he didn't have a table, but he went to New York Comic-Con and he seemed to be, just fine. Like no one was throwing eggs or milkshakes or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess like just going around, I wouldn't expect people to really be, I think what happened to that guy, I know the guy who does the gaming videos who got assaulted last year.
Jeremy.
Jeremy. So his
yeah.
was kind of an unusual case. For one thing, he is very high profile, and apparently the guy, just had it in for him. I don't think they knew each other personally, but they had like an online grudge or something. So that's kind of unique. So I wouldn't expect like Ethan, or really anyone else to go to hang out at a con and have any sort of confrontation, although it could happen. But if you have a table, then like people know, like, oh, that guy, he's here, he's over there in that corner. Now you're right. Your audience right now is small enough that probably go to a con. There's probably not going to be too many people who are going to know you as a creator.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of interesting point. I mean, I'm thinking about it, and the people I know as conservative creators, I haven't really seen them do cons. Like since this whole thing seemed to get really heated. Not even like Chuck Dixon, and I haven't seen. Maybe he is doing cons if he gets on here. I'll ask him, but I haven't seen Chuck. I mean, obviously, Myers definitely not. You know, like you said, Ethan, Mike S. Miller. I don't know if he has, but I haven't heard of him.
He did San Diego. I know he did San Diego most recently.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't get much higher profile than that.
Yeah. I don't know. I have to think that probably most people. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but it seems like most people leave it online, or they talk big on Twitter. You know what I mean? And they see you in person, and they're not going to even approach you. But I don't know. I also try my best not to fight online, so that might be a little bit better. But
I've seen some of this animosity kind of come out like offline. Nothing like physical violence, but I've seen creators have some pretty strong disagreements that are, I guess you could say, over ideology. I've seen projects get split that way, and I don't know. I just kind of wonder, like, so I live in Texas, so obviously more conservative than not, but the big cities is kind of like you're saying with Salt Lake. Very, very heavy political mix in the big cities. But I just kind of wonder how much of the comic audience really leans one way or the other. I mean, I know that a lot of Comicsgate people are saying that, they're losing sales because they're being too political. And I'm not going to say that there's not any truth in that, but I'm like, when I lived in Houston, like pretty much everyone I knew who read comics, and I knew a lot of people, they had a lot of great stores there. I'd go around to all of them all the time. And it was a pretty liberal audience, I got to tell you.
Yeah.
And that's here in Texas.
Right. And it's hard for me to know. I don't know. And at the same time, I'm like, that's not right. Like, I shouldn't be afraid to go to, and it's something I've always wanted to do, is have a table and meet people and, promote my book at a convention. And so, part of me is like, it's just not right to not be able to do that. We've got Peter Cimetti in the chat. He's got some experience with.
He's had some controversy.
And also going to conventions too. He says, I've had death threats prior to attending a show. People are all talk. Just use common sense, the buddy system when you can, and be on your guard. That's just advice for every day, anywhere. Good advice. But it is definitely something to think about. And I don't know, you'd kind of want to think ahead. I've had a few angry people online. I hope I never meet them in person, but some of it's just strange. Like, I don't know. You're just like, where is this coming from?
Well, and I know, Peter, you're definitely one of the sort of the exceptions of people who've had some, really uncommon, troubles with people targeting you. So I wouldn't expect some of the trouble you've had to be as common, which you are higher profile. And like you said, you do the cons, safely. Honestly, I've never understood why Peter has been such a big target. I mean, I know I've seen the stories, I watched the videos, I've read all this stuff, but I'm like, he's very apolitical from what I've seen, other than he's willing to say, hey, the Comicsgate side, people like my book, I should say thank you. And I don't know. I mean, I just never got why he became such a big hate target.
Yeah, that is it's mind-boggling to me as well. I think, I don't want to out Peter, but we talked a little bit about politics and just how, and I'm very, I'm conservative for sure. I would consider myself more moderate conservative. There are definitely more hard right people out there than me. But I'm definitely conservative. I'm not, I would not consider myself a liberal at all. And Peter is, he doesn't lean right as far as my understanding goes. Sorry, Peter, I don't want to out you or anything like that. We didn't talk a lot about politics, but I think there's just this big swath of people. Most people want to be safe and get along. It's just, you've got some hardliners out there that are.
I've had some experience with the online drama, but not in a very public way. Back when back when the whole Jawbreakers thing went down last year, I had
Yeah.
one creator who worked with AP block me on social media, not because I said I like Jawbreakers, just because I said I was okay with like whatever AP wanted to do. Like I was like, if they want to print the book, that's fine with me. If they want to cancel it, that's not my concern. And the fact that I didn't want to take a strong stance against Richard Myers, the guy just ups and blocks me.
Yeah, that was part of it, at least that I'm just making observations even with Peter, is that people were not they were expecting, you know what I mean, this like harsh reaction and rejection. And when they don't get that out of people, then they're like, oh, if you're not with us, you're against us,
Yeah, sorry. I think my connection cut out there. I didn't hear the last part you said.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that it seems like people expect you to be with them or against them. And so if you're not declaring that, someone like Richard Myers is the root of all evil, then, you're out of the club. You have to show everybody that you're against him.
And what people online don't really understand is that most people who buy comics have no idea who Richard Myers is.
Yeah.
They really don't. I mean, it's really strictly an internet thing. I didn't really follow any of the internet drama before the thing with Jawbreakers happened last year. I started following it because that fascinated me. I mean, I had a book out with AP and had more projects. So obviously I was curious how that was going to affect the company. But before that, I mean, people had to catch me up on the whole thing. I heard about Jawbreakers and I had no idea what it was, no idea who Richard was. So I was just like, okay, it's a new book. And then I heard the stories and even when I heard him, I'm like, I don't know. This just something sounds fishy here. It sounds like it's just really too blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing I heard about it, it's weird because now it's like it's about the year anniversary for me when I started really talking about this stuff online. But I first heard about it. Let's see. I think I heard that there was a lawsuit. Oh, it was Jim Zub. That's right. I saw Jim Zub mention something about Mark Waid's lawsuit. So I looked into it. And that just sent me down the rabbit hole. So I found the Comedy Central thing, the hit piece that they did on your boy Zach. And yeah, that just got me like, what? There's no way. Because most of the time when I see them trying that hard to defame somebody, chances are it's not true. So I looked into it and yeah, like it is a lot more complicated than they make it out to be. And so, yeah, I mean, the same thing, and I think there's just a lot of people that saw it and were really put off by it. But it's funny how in comics there's still the chilling factor. There we go. We're talking about him, and there he is.
What? Oh, hey Zach.
Boy, Comics Matter with your boy Zach. I always have to double take and make sure that it doesn't say diversity in comics because there's another one of those floating around. But yeah, Zach, I since you're there, I got to tell you this though. I have you to thank for having my book be published because I was so annoyed in a long roundabout way also Mark Waid because I'd been trying to get into comics for years and then I saw what happened with your publishing deal and I got so upset about it. I sent you an email, you never read it, but I was just like, I'm so mad, I'm so upset. And yeah, so then I could kind of sent me down this whole road. So now like a whole year later, it's like, oh, I've got a book I'm sending to the printer next week. So it's so weird. So I have to thank you in a really roundabout way. He's asking where my pooch is.
Yeah, right. Where's your dog?
Come here, Artie. Come here. He's laying over here.
So does everyone who has a YouTube commentary channel now have to have a dog in there as their mascot?
It definitely helps. He got a lot of good reactions.
Little camera shy today.
Yeah. There we go. There he is.
Ta-da.
There's Artie. He said, no, I meant where's Chuck Dixon?
Oh.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't we sent Chuck the link. He said he was game. He was good to go.
Yeah, we talked to him this morning. I mean, I actually only talked to him through email. I don't have a phone number, so yeah. He's been contacted. There may have been a mix-up on times, though. Or, what you never know what someone's up to. You could have had some sort of emergency or something.
I can check my link again, but yeah, I emailed him the link. You emailed him the link. I don't know where he's at yet. So I feel bad because I really want to talk to Chuck again. Yeah. We've had him on here before, but
that's actually that'll be my first time to actually have a voice conversation with the guy. I'd just been doing a lot of online correspondence. Never met him at cons.
Do you have another way to reach out to him besides the email?
No, unfortunately I don't. I mean, Facebook friends with him. But I mean, if he's not checking his email, I doubt he's checking Facebook too.
Yeah. You know, it would be a fun surprise. I'm just going to throw this out there, but your boy Zach, if you were interested in jumping in, that would be fun too. Just saying, just throwing that out there.
Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know. I could send you a link if you're interested. Or if you have like a few minutes, like no worries.
Well, yeah. Actually, Richards also brings up a good point, because he was actually someone who also went to a very high profile con and didn't have any problems. When he did that interview in LA or wherever it was, I know he did that 10-minute runabout of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, that's right.
Who does a 10-minute runabout? I got actually very motion sick watching that video, Zach, by the way, if you're still watching. I thought it was quite fascinating. I'd never been there. And it's like, oh, we're really going to watch this. And about 5 minutes into it, I was about ready to throw up.
Yeah. He sounds like he's one that doesn't stick around very long, though. One of his videos, recent ones, he was saying that he doesn't he doesn't spend a lot of time talking to people in the comic shops. If I remember correctly, he's antisocial. His words, not mine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just because someone has a great sort of, someone who does a good show, you hear them chatting a lot, on the radio or on TV, does not necessarily mean they're extroverts in real life.
Right. Well, it's different too. And then being online and talking, I was kind of joking about this, I don't know, earlier this week or something, about it's hard to be funny online. At least for me, it is. I don't know, because in the back of my mind, I think like anybody's watching this, or it's recorded forever. And so I want to be careful. If anything, that's been, I don't know, it's just been a hard kind of thing to go through, especially when you're trying to be entertaining. You also don't want to have major regrets. So, but in person, yeah, it's totally different. Not that it's necessarily intentional, but it definitely happens.
Yeah, and you bring up another good point. One of the reasons I've not really wanted to do a video series is, that stuff is like, was it from the social media? I remember there being, or Social Network, that movie about Facebook. There's a line in there, it's like the internet is written in ink. You don't just erase it. And then that's been proven, like, especially with all the comic book controversy over the last year. I mean, think about like, the dark roast and all these other stuff. You think it's going to be secret, or you start deleting posts, or it's 8 years ago and everyone's forgotten about it and just comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, and I still haven't seen the dark roast. That's been one. That's been one I just want to watch just for the sake of seeing it, because that's supposed to be the worst of the worst stuff. But again, it's like if you spend so much time talking online, especially trying to be entertaining, you're going to offend some people. So yeah, Zach.
Hey, looks like we got somebody there who knows how to get a hold of him.
Yeah, Scott. Apparently, you've got his cell phone. That's good. Thanks for texting.
Yeah, I know a guy who has his number, but I'd have to call another guy to get that guy's number, to get Chuck's number.
I wonder if he's having just problems or something. I don't know. I'm hoping it's not the first time he's done Streamlabs.
Well,
Streamlabs pretty easy, but
I just forwarded him the link you sent me. I mean, you didn't need to do anything special. Just click on it, right? I mean, just like I did.
Yeah, click on it, put your name in.
Okay. Well, I mean, he's done videos before, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure, he's done Streamlab before.
Well, we'll see. Maybe he got held up. We'll find out. I did send Zach. I don't know if you're still there watching. I sent you the link just in case. No pressure. But even if you drop in for like 30 seconds, that would be fun. It'd be fun to say hi. But yeah, why don't we, since we're here, let's talk about Thrilling Comics, because this is why we've had Chuck Dixon come, is because this was a project that he wrote a book on. I also wrote a book, and David Furr wrote a book, and they're all combined into one glorious, what have I been calling it, golden age goodness. And so why don't let's take a look at that. The thing is, this is starting to get down to the wire here. We got 6 days left, so we got to get this thing funded.
Yeah, and we're way behind. I mean, it's still possible, but I know we're definitely behind. And if you guys want to see this, start pledging.
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
and just to clarify, if anyone is watching this, doesn't realize this is a fixed one. It's kind of I deliberately did this as an all or nothing, because to produce this book the way it really needs to be produced, I actually need that amount of money. So I didn't want to only sell $3,000 dollars worth, and I'm like, well, crap, and now I'm either going to have to cheapen the book a lot, or I'm in the hole like $7,000, which I can't do. So
right. Well, so here's the thing too, is I've been getting some questions about, and this is why, like, when you get, there's still plenty of time to get this funded, but being almost 40% funded and then 6 days left, some people are hesitant because they're just like, oh, it's just like a mental thing that I don't want to back, because then what happens if it doesn't get funded? This is a fixed goal, so it's like if it hits the goal, the book's made. If it's not, just like David was saying, then there's no book, and so you'll get your money back. So there's literally no downside in getting into this.
And I was talking to Clint before we went live. I know with Kickstarter, which is all about fixed goals, they don't take your money until the campaign ends. Now with Indiegogo, I don't know what they do with fixed goals. If people have already pledged and they already took your money, I know that's common with all their other ones. Yeah. Then they'll just refund it when it's over. I mean, I have no idea how quickly, if it's like immediate or if it's like it takes a week or whatever. But I mean, you'll get all your money back.
Right. Yeah, and David is a upstanding guy too, and that's the other thing too, is just trusting people. I mean, you've published you've been editing comics for years, writing comics for years.
Yeah, and I have a record with crowdfunding. People want to check me out, they can see me on Kickstarter. My Frontier Graveyard and my Mobster Graveyard campaigns, and then I did another one under a different account called Help Wanted, and all those were fulfilled. I think I was pretty timely in all those. I definitely was not 6 months late, as some other people are in the habit of it. Not calling any names, but anyway. So you can see that I'm good on what I do. I've just had bad luck with Indiegogo. This is not the first time I've tried it. This is just the first time I tried to really like get some money behind it. Get some real people on it.
And crowdfunding is a different skill set than there is for just making comics. And I don't know, like that for me, this whole experience has been such a learning, because YouTube is one, learning curve, and then making comics is another one, and then crowdfunding is a totally separate one as well. And so, that's why it was nice that you assembled this team. I thought it was smart, because you got Chuck Dixon, who's a legend in the industry. Right. And then I've been doing crowdfunding, and I'm not a legend, but I'm just so happy to be included. And then obviously you have so much editorial experience. And so, it's just really great to have this team together for this book. I had a ton of fun writing the Silver Streak story. That was, I don't know, it's just something like makes me want to write more superhero stories. This is actually my first superhero story.
Yeah. And I was kind of like you when I started getting serious about writing comics. I stayed away from superheroes initially. Because it was the common idea that, if you want to read superheroes, you're going to buy Marvel or DC. I mean, who's going to read your no-name superhero? But it was actually been done with AP that changed my mind. Well, first of all, he actually commissioned me for a story, a superhero story that was public domain themed. And his thing was just like, look, he's taken the attitude that, since superhero comics are on the decline, that just actually presents more opportunity for someone else who wants to get in. Because, now suddenly DC and Marvel are losing readers. Where are the readers going? Well, if you can be the one to snag them. I don't know how necessarily true that is, but, it did, get me willing to give it a chance. And, I mean, for someone who's not had a lot of, publishing experience with actual publishers, I've had pretty good luck with this. I've been mostly working with a title called Exciting Comics, which is released by AP. I have one of the characters that's in there called Crimson Scorpion, and those books have done really well. I mean, for a small publisher, and Crimson Scorpion's been well received. And he actually is going to get his own book, which comes out in February. It'll be a 3-issue miniseries, and if it does well enough, we'll actually just make it a monthly book, or not a monthly, but a bi-monthly book.
No, it's cool. It's interesting to developing your own, just developing the property, and that's lately it's just been, I don't know, I've got a few plates I'm spinning, but I don't know, I really want to focus on Downcast and make sure that we have something substantial and everyone's happy. So, but yeah, things are going really, really good. Robert Roberts says, I'm backing Thrilling Comics, or I'd back Thrilling Comics, but I just looked it up and there's no digital option. I literally live in the Arctic tundra and don't have space for non-digital books. What are you doing in the Arctic tundra? That's interesting.
That's very curious.
That is interesting. Yeah, it'd be fun to pick your brain. Let's see.
I thought about doing digital, but I've done digital campaigns in the past, and it's just not many people get them, and obviously you want it to be cheaper because you're not putting a physical project out there. So, I mean, it's just usually hasn't really been worth the hassle. And I had noticed that a lot of the big campaigns these days actually don't offer digital. So I was like, okay, I guess that's not really a thing much anymore, at least for the crowdfunding aspect.
Yeah, it's definitely, it feels like competing interests sometimes. I get it though. Like there are a few people that really, really, really need digital. I get that. At the same time, it's rough. I kind of wish I had digital on my campaign and I took it off after like a week or so because it ended up just making life a little bit more difficult. It kind of undermines the campaign when you're like, I need the money to get the book printed,
Right.
So
because the print cost is for something like this is one of the big costs.
Yeah. And I wouldn't mind down the road doing digital later, kind of like, if something's going to DVD or going to streaming later. It makes a little bit more sense, I guess, at that time. But
you could easily get your books on Comixology. That's actually pretty easy to do. I've had some books on Comixology before. I'm not sure if I still have them currently, but that's super easy.
Yeah. Bianca Fights the Zombies. Bianca, I watch your channel. It's awesome. I love it. I subscribed. Everybody should do so as well. He says, so many good live streams on. I agree. Yeah, it always happens. There's everyone and their mother streams now, and I swear, anytime like the coast is clear and I go to stream, then like Ethan will pop up and like just everybody with a bigger streaming poll than I do. So appreciate the 25 people that are here. Really, really appreciate that. I'm really hoping that Chuck Dixon comes in because I want to talk to him so bad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I did have. Have you talked to him? Do you know him personally? You talked to him in person?
No, it's all been online. I mean, we have a lot of mutual contacts. One of he's got a good friend of his that lives near me, and who's I won't say the guy he's not a close friend of mine, but he's a close friend. We run in the same circles.
Yeah.
And plus then also through AP, because he's done I don't think he's done a lot of stuff with AP, but he has worked with AP on and off. And that's actually how I officially got in touch with him was through AP this time.
Nice. Yeah, I had actually, come to think of it, it was Scott that was in the chat earlier. He gave me his contact and for his email, and I emailed him and was like, hey, can I do an interview with you? And he's like, sure. And we just did it. So that was really cool. He was my first big interview. So it was really fun.
Cool.
Another one I did was with Kevin Eastman. That was also awesome.
Nice.
I want to get Kevin Eastman on again. We had a good time. He said he would do it again.
How'd you score that?
Very carefully. I basically I sent in a media request, and the timing was just right because he was doing media calls for before San Diego Comic-Con, I guess. And so he had like this time period set out to do it. So I got I believe it was his wife contacted me. We talked a little bit, and then so she set it up. So that was pretty cool. It worked out okay. The only downside was we tried to do it live and it wasn't working. He's really used to using Skype, and then we at the time were just using Google Hangouts because that's what worked with YouTube, and so we couldn't get it to work. So I had to pre-record it. We did it on Skype, and I pre-recorded it.
Any way you can do it for something like that.
Oh yeah, it was so cool, and it was like 20 minutes, I think. But yeah, we pre-recorded it and posted it. It was so cool. He's one of my heroes, Kevin Eastman. That was pretty great. Let's see. AL Streamlabs is going a little slow. Digital is a good option when things are expensive to ship. Yeah, I agree. That it gets to where shipping it overseas is expensive.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. I looked at some of the rates you were charging for your international. I think you may have underestimated
Oh,
what it's going to cost for you to send to some of those places.
I hope not. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I've I've had countries that cost upwards of almost $40 for just a graphic novel regular size.
ooh, ouch.
I mean, it's really all over the place, and that's
Yeah.
why with thrilling, I just kind of picked a number that was a little high. I knew it was not going to cover some countries, but I knew it was more than other countries needed just to kind of come out in the wash because you have to pick a number, and it's too
Yeah.
much trouble to like go through and figure out what every country is. You also don't know where bids are going to come from.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I was surprised. It's like a good 25% of the backers are from outside of the country.
Yeah, that
So
doesn't surprise me.
yeah, it's probably more than that actually. It was just, I don't know. I didn't know what to expect, but yeah, those are, I don't know. We'll find out with shipping. I've got all the shipping supplies ready, but it's just paying for the shipping and getting it out there. And then we did like I've been working with the printer on the cover because we reached those stretch goals. So the cover is just going to be pimped out. Like it's going to be so nice. There's going to be like metallic in it. And I guess I probably won't give away too much, but we did talk about the spot gloss UV, some of the metallic stuff, foil stuff. So it's going to be really cool. I'm excited for it, but everything's just costing more because of the stretch goals. So
Well, that sounds like it's going to be really cool. I would love to,
yeah,
at least in one book, do some sort of chromium or foil embossing or something.
yeah,
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
yeah, it's fun. And then I think people appreciate it, especially, I think all the early backers that got in, it's like, I want, you took a chance on me. I want to make it happy with the book. So I think that'll be good. And then down the road, if it gets reprinted, it won't be that special. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Let's see. Ori says jumped into the stream to avoid Cyberfrog spoilers. So is that what's going on right now?
Oh,
Cyberfrog spoilers.
well, let me tell you all about the story. Actually, I'm just kidding. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah. It could be like the next book, I'm guessing, possibly if he's showing things off there. I don't know. But yeah, of course we're competing with EVS. That always happens. So I'm curious, what are you reading right now, David?
I got a pretty limited library of what I buy, but I do kind of all over the place. I try to keep up with Marvel and DC, but I won't get into like a lot of the big events.
Mm-hmm.
I am doing the House Power of X stuff, and I got the new X-Men #1 yesterday, but I haven't read it yet. I mean, I've read a lot of Jonathan Hickman's other event stuff, and he's very highbrow, very sort of non-traditional comic, but it's good stuff. So I had to give this a try. I last night actually picked up and read this new title by DC that's basically What If for DC. They're calling it Tales of the Dark Multiverse.
Okay.
But if you read it, it reads just like the old What If, because the old What If would be the Watcher talking about, oh, well, I've seen other places where these things happen, and it's the same thing. I can't remember the character, but it's some cosmic character says, well, I've been looking into the different universes and I saw this happen. So the first issue was a What If with Nightfall. It was like a what if when Batman tried to come back after Nightfall, Azrael defeated him and stayed Batman. So it was a pretty decent read.
Nice.
What about you? What are you reading these days?
Yeah. So most recently, I keep starting stuff and I have to stop. I just finished Scrimshaw, which is an alternate title. I've been trying to read as much alternate just to catch up on things. And then I've just started the Ninja Turtle Batman. I've got them sitting on my rack, the rest of them. The Ninja Turtle Batman #3 miniseries. So started that. That was
I read
interesting.
the first one. What did you think of that one?
It's interesting. I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't read the first 3 volumes or the first 2 volumes from it. So I don't know. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's just kind of a mishmash of all the characters. Basically, they just combined them, So I don't know if the first 2 were like that, but I don't know. It's kind of a gimmick. I'll admit, like that's part of it. But I'm a sucker for Ninja Turtles, so that happens for sure. All right, let's take another look at Thrilling Comics then. Peter's given us 2 thumbs up. That's good. All right.
Oh, and Peter, if you're watching, I also read, was it Gods and Gears, that new title they put out?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if your comic shop did this, but my comic shop, Peter offered a thing where if you bought a certain number of copies of Gods and Gears, she actually gave you like a little like table display. It was really cool.
Oh, cool.
Not a bad idea. I'm kind of wondering if that's something that we should try for one of my books. But I'd be curious of how well that helped your sales in that, Peter. I don't know if that's something you want to divulge on a stream, but I was quite curious by that. But hey, it caught my attention. I bought the book.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's the thing, is making other ways to make comics interesting. You know, buying comics fun and interesting. And sometimes, I don't know, I think it could just be that simple. Crowdfunding is one. I think it's fun to back crowdfunded projects and then get them shipped to you in the mail. That's fun. Have something unique and special. Yeah, stands are nice. I've noticed now that I have this spinner rack that I just got, I look at my books a lot more often, and then I see the ones on my to read list. They're like right there. So it's just more convenient to get to them and read them. So yeah, I strongly suggest a spinner rack, even a cheap, like fake one that I have.
The spinner racks remind me of the day when all comics were on that, and you would always get bent because those things were not designed to keep comics in mint condition.
Yeah, I heard a lot about that, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of paranoid. I wonder if I could put something on the bottom, you know what I mean? Something flat, like just cardboard even, or something on the bottom of each of them, so it prevent them from.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're bagging and boarding yours, but like in the old days, they just throw the books out there on these spinner racks, with no protection. So, you just thumb through them and all the spines get bent up. I mean, the farther back you go, the part of the reason that, high grades are more isn't just because they've had time to age and, turn yellow or something, but the farther back you go, the less people try to take care of them.
Right. Yeah, I got to say, I just was reminded of this too. Speaking of comics we're reading, I just barely read, now I'm going to forget the name of it, Rooster Puncher's book that's coming through Alterna. It's not out yet. I read the digital version. I read number 1, and that was really, really cool to read that. I enjoyed it. Peter said it's like a punch in the face. It just punches you in the face. I get what he's saying. It absolutely is. It's a punch in the face. It's called Void Walker, by the way. I was drawing a blank there for a minute, but yeah, I know that one's coming out soon, and it was a lot of fun. Let's see. He says, Peter says, did he beat the crap out of you in a good way? Yeah, the thing was too, it went a different direction. I was expecting I get where this story is. I'm not going to do any spoilers. I get what's going on here. I get where this story's going. And then all of a sudden it just turns left, like total left turn. And, but in a really good way. It was really fun. Yeah. And this guy says we need a rooster emoji. Looks like there's a chicken, not a rooster. But yeah, that was really fun. And then I love, all these Argentinian artists. I really like the style. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is, but Christian, he also knows Nacho Lazaro, who's the artist on Downcast. I guess they've had the same teacher. And then my colorist, Damian Penalba, they all know each other. And I love their style. They have like a really interesting kind of flavor that comes out. I don't know if it's because they have the same teacher or if it's Argentinian comics. I'm not sure, but it's whatever they're doing, it's cool. All right. Well, I don't know where Chuck is. I keep checking the lines, keep checking to see if he sends me an email. This is a little disappointing. Maybe
I just checked my email and there was no response either.
Yeah.
I hope he didn't think that was 9:30 in the morning.
Oh yeah. Hope not. I thought we would.
Because I'm pretty sure my first message I said tomorrow evening, that being of course tonight, and then sent him another one said 9:30. But but in the second email I just said 9:30. I didn't clarify that was PM. So, yikes.
I would assume that he would know evening. I would think because most streaming happens evening, but I don't know. Yeah,
true. It always seems you put your videos up though kind of early in the day.
Yeah, if you're doing pre-recorded videos, I did a lot of research on this, and you can actually post your videos in the middle of the day. I think like the best time is between 11 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's just more likely that you're going to get more people watching it at once when they get that notification. And so, and I don't know why that is, but
They're all at work and they need something to do,
I guess. Yeah, or it's a lunchtime, something like that. But so that works. It has worked the best for me, and I've experimented posting some at night, even when it's like timely, like really timely news. And I think, oh, I got to get this up now. And it'll be like 9:30 at night Mountain Time. It's always a bad idea. I always regret it. But yeah, they've been demonetizing my videos lately again. For a while there, I was safe. If I put comics in the tag, if I put a tab of comics, they will demonetize the video every single time. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense because you have all these comic book commentators who have monetized streams doing comics, and that apparently isn't a problem for them. So why tagging it? Why it would be an issue?
I don't know if it's like they know that I don't know, there's culture war stuff I guess going on with YouTube and comics. I'm not entirely sure, but it's like it doesn't matter. Like I can make a video that's just the nicest thing about comics. But yeah, I don't get it. Let's see. Peter says, talk about how the best way to run a comic shop is not to have any comics in it. That's true. Did you see that article at all? I made a video on this.
What?
It's a no inventory comic shop. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of.
So how does that work?
So the reasoning was, and this article was on Bleeding Cool. So, credit where credit's due. Basically, they're saying that keeping inventory in a comic shop is really hard. It's difficult, and it's a big overhead cost. So have a comic shop that doesn't have any inventory. But then it's like, why have a brick and mortar store so customers can come in and order their comics and then you bring them to the store? They would just order them online.
Well,
it doesn't make any sense.
Actually, now that you say that really is what it seems comic stores are becoming. Now, my favorite comic store in the Dallas area is actually, it's like 90% comics. They have a huge back issue selection. They get lots of books from independent publishers. But, around here, we got a lot of comic shops, and I'll go to, I'll shop around. And, one of the big frustrations I have is that, a new book comes out, and it doesn't even have to be like, like a hot number one. It could be like, Daredevil number 17 or whatever just came out that month. And you won't be able to find it on the shelves. And you'll go and ask, and they're like, we just ordered a couple of them. But if you really want one, you need to sign up for our subscription service. So I don't do the subscription service because I'm very kind of fickle. I'll be reading a title for like 6 months and pick up a bad issue, and I'm done. Or just change my mind and want to read something else. So I just never want to do that. So what I found is I actually miss a lot of comics on the first week that they come out, because comic shops, they're just carrying what you order. I mean, as in the subscription stuff, they're not putting stuff on the shelves. And I'm just kind of like, well, what's the point? I mean, at this point, I might as well just get online and have the stuff sent to my house. It's really frustrating.
Yeah, well, you don't get to browse for books, and that's, if people are in comic shops looking around, that's an important thing, just browsing through and seeing what's there to buy. Otherwise, you just buy it online and get it shipped to your door. So yeah, it's one of the silliest things I've ever seen. Here's a question. What do you think of the new Liefeld book coming out? I'm assuming you're talking about Brigade. I don't know.
Thought that was his Kickstarter was Brigade.
Yeah. It's apparently shipping. I guess it's been printed. That's what I heard. I didn't back the campaign. I've mentioned this before. Like, I have respect for Rob Liefeld, but I'm not a huge fan of his art. So yeah, I didn't back it. So I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. Let's see. Here's another one. Here's from Peter. Or how about a Comics Explained tweet? I'd be interested in talking to him about why he thinks comic shops should just go away. Yeah, I also saw that. That was on one of Zach's videos. I don't know if you saw that, but basically the comment was something to the effect of, why is there so much attention being put on keeping comic shops in business? Why don't we just allow, it's the modern age. Why don't we just allow them to go out of business? It's the age of smartphones, something like that. And the counter argument is that if comic shops aren't there, then comics won't sell. There's going to be a huge downturn in comic sales. Now I could see like graphic novels and things like that. Buying those online makes sense money wise, but if you're buying single issues, you're gonna have to buy them in chunks. You know what I mean? In order to
Yeah,
get it. So
with today's market, if you don't have comic shops, you don't have floppies.
exactly.
And I like floppies. I mean, yeah, I would read a lot less comics if I only could get them in graphic novels.
Yeah.
And I would be a lot less enthused about producing comics, honestly, even though a lot of what I'm producing is graphic novels, is because when you do these campaigns, that's the best way to do them.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, the problem, the biggest problem with the comic book industry is regarding sales here is not political. And it's not really even digital, which is that kind of surprised me. But the numbers are coming out showing that digital comics aren't really cutting into print comics much.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it's just basically the avalanche that was started in the 90s when comics got out of non-comic stores. When I was a kid, you could buy comics anywhere there were magazines.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy to get hooked into comics. You have a kid who goes to the grocery store with his mom. He sees a comic book, picks it up, reads it while, the mom's shopping, and maybe buys it. And if not, now he's interested in that title or something. Especially and not just for that, but also for people who, if you live in a market that can't support a full comic shop. Like the guy I'm working with on Thrilling for doing colors, Shannon, he lives in a town that's got there's a lot of comic book readers there, but it's not big enough to hold a comic book store. So he has to drive like an hour to a comic book store. But, if they were in 7-Elevens and whatnot, like they used to be, people could still read them. And until you get them back into non-comic shops somehow, then there's not really going to be a full recovery. I mean, they might be able to flounder for a while and keep going at somewhat of a steady pace. But I mean, you're never going to have the recovery until people are willing to suck it up and say, okay, we're going to risk the return policy or whatever it takes to get them back into other stores.
Right. Yeah. Well, this other thing is that right now floppies are selling the most. Like graphic novels had been stronger in the past, and right now floppies are keeping the market alive. And so if you get rid of comic shops, if they're gone, and that's here this comment. So Sama Amanat wants to get rid of comic shops. I did not know that Sama Amanat was saying that as well. Where do they think they'll be buying issues of Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl?
Well, she's got the TV series now. Why does she need the comics?
That's right. Yeah. Who cares about comics? Yeah. All you need are, that's all you need.
Well, and the other thing about them not being in non-comic shops is again, the younger audience. Not only can kids not just stumble across them, which is why you're not getting younger readers into them, but the other thing is that I've noticed comic shops pretty much universally now seem to be banning children, which just floors me. And I don't mean like 100% banning, but a lot of comic shops I go to, if you are under like a middle school age or younger, or I don't know, like 12 or younger, whatever it is, then you have to have an adult to go in there. And I remember being like 12 years old and just walking over to my local comic shop and just browsing around. I mean, you keep all the kids out, if they're not at least growing a beard, then I'm like, how in the heck are you going to get new readers?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. It's not funny. It's sad because so one of my best videos that I've ever done, I made a video on comics for boys, young boys, and boys aren't reading. And there's all sorts of facts around this. And the thing is that people get really energized around those kind of ideas, that there should be entertainment for growing boys. And to me, comics, it's like the perfect medium, and it gets boys into reading. I know it's helped my son read. And you want to read other things as well. It's good, reading chapter books and things. But when they're not making comics for young boys, where they're not making them so that you can purchase them, like you're saying, just kids going into a store, comic shop to buy it, because it's all become so fragile, that you have to protect it from kids, or protect it, ideologically, you got to protect it. That's a problem. And I know there's a lot of people that want to see that, because again, that video just did so well. I think for me, it did amazing. I've got like 30,000 views on that video. Because people, it's definitely a topic people care about. Yeah. And here's a great comment from Kendall Hare. Young boys are going to manga. They know what guys like. Yeah, and sales support that, which is, I mean, it's
But
good for manga. It's unfortunate.
how much is that is just manga on a ascension on its own versus just that's where comic book readers are going because they can't get comic books and you know all the other things that are cutting into readers.
I don't know. It's a good question. I think manga has been doing well for some number of years anyway. I'm not sure. I still love American comics, so I haven't really been into, I've watched a couple animes, but that's about as far as I've ever gotten. Yeah, and then here's another good point too from Aaron Olson. Many of our LCSs are more about games than comics. Yep. And many of them, they're just games. Like there are no comics. And so I know for me, it's like, I've got to go, there's like the one store around here, you know, I can drive a little bit farther and get to other shops that actually sell books. And even then it's like, they don't normally, unless I'm interested in keeping up on all the latest, Marvel books, they just seem to never have anything I want. So,
but I don't see the gaming stores and selling comics as that being a problem at all. I actually, I'd see that as a good thing because yes, I've got two friends. One currently owns a gaming store. One used to own one for years. So I've seen that gaming has actually been a very lucrative market for our generation. And it looks like it's going to stay that way. So that's, so you can make good money on gamings. And if you like comics and want to support them, but you don't think you can just do comics full on, then, you use them to supplement games, then great. Now you've got more comic books out there that makes them easier to get.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just say, no, you have to be games or comics, you can't be both, then you're just going to have a lot less comic shops because games shops won't convert to comic shops. So again, it goes back to my thing about have non-comic shops carry comics. So have gaming stores carry comics.
Absolutely. Well, and it helps them diversify their income. I love Magic the Gathering and I go play at my local card shop that doesn't sell comics, but it sure would be nice if they did. If it
and the only bad thing, for someone like me, for my taste, about the gaming stores versus a true comic store is, the gaming stores, you're not going to get like back issues or much. I mean, you're just usually going to get kind of what's hot that week. But it's better than, like for my friend who mentioned lives in a city he can't get comics at all. I mean, if the gaming store there would sell comics, then he wouldn't have to drive an hour.
Right. Yeah. Here's a question. Why do you think DC is going to do the rumored DC 5G initiative where they relaunch all their major titles with diverse replacement characters if the quality of their books has been on the upswing? So I've read a little bit about this, but what I'm not sure of is how much is rumored and how much is true. So I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this story unfolds. But I think that the rumor is that they're going to be relaunching characters, so they'll be all new. They're going to Marvelize their characters. But I don't know that that's the truth. I'd have to read more on it, honestly.
Well, I mentioned earlier in the stream that I had read that What If comic, DC What If comic last night, and I've been behind on reading DC, so I mean I've been buying them, but I just hadn't been reading them. Yeah. So I hadn't really kept up with the most recent thing. But at the beginning of the comic, that sort of Watcher character says like, he's doing that because he knows that a crisis is coming that is going to be bigger than any crisis that's come before. In other words, bigger than Crisis on Infinite Earth, or Zero Hour, or Flashpoint. And so when I said that, I'm like, they're going to do it again, aren't they? So I could just tell from reading that DC's got some plans to do another reboot. But the question is are they ever going to get around to rebooting their comics? Because the truth is, DC's never actually rebooted. They've just gone into alternate universes that some of the old universe keeps pulling over. So you still got elements of like the Silver Age in the New 52 and the Rebirth era and things like that.
Right.
So, in which Marvel did the same thing when they did their Secret War reboot. It's like their Secret War reboot was basically like, we really want to get Miles Morales in the regular universe, so we're going to do a big epic event affecting everybody, but not really just getting Miles Morales over.
Right. Well, so this is a good point here. I suspect the leak is testing the water for how that will go over, which is absolutely terrible. The thing is that there are short-term gains that can be made by doing something that's controversial. And the thing is, it's just happening. It's so many different industries and everything. They're just specifically trying to get a reaction out of people in order to get them to have interest and buy things. I don't think long term, obviously, and we've seen evidence for that. I think that long term making fans upset is not a good idea.
Well,
it's not a good business model.
And I think the biggest problem with it has nothing to do with per se what they're going to do with the characters. It's just the idea of another reboot in and of itself. I mean, because they've done so many in the history of their company, plus just in the last 10 years alone. I mean, and it gets confusing. So like they did the New 52, and then that went on for a few years, and then they did Rebirth. But was Rebirth actually a reboot? Because I was reading the New 52 into Rebirth, and there was no event. I mean, you had the thing with Wally West coming back.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that was like, he came back into the New 52 universe is the way I read it, but they were rebranding everything. So it just got confusing, and everyone was calling Rebirth a reboot, but I'm like, well, where was the reboot? And is it not? And then they stopped calling it Rebirth again. So what's happened to the new timeline? And you just can't tell anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. And this is why it's so. I've long said this because I haven't been into comics since I was a kid. I was into comics as an adult, and so for me, it's like having these massive universes can be cool, but it's really hard to approach as a new reader. It gets really confusing with continuity and all of that. And I get it. Like if you have been reading comics for a really long time and been following everything, then like I guess it's not as much of a problem. But it does seem like there has to be some way to just help people approach it if you want to get new readers, which you should. You always should be trying to get new readers. I don't know. I just haven't been super pleased with how primarily Marvel has done it. I guess that's where most of my gripes are, but also DC as well. It can get a little rough.
But you know, the history of comics proves you don't need reboots or even renumberings to get new readers in. I mean, think about how the comic market grew from like the late 50s up to the 90s.
Yeah.
Now that you did have the DC reboot in the mid 80s, but aside from that, you know, you were pulling in readers all the time. People who were getting into Spider-Man were willing to say, hey, it's issue 285. I'll just jump in here.
Yeah.
You know, because the stories were small enough. You'd have 2 or 3 issues that were tight. And they kept things long and epic too, but it was easy to jump in. Yeah. And people didn't mind that it was not a number one. They just thought it was cool and they would jump in. So the whole idea of doing these number ones, number ones traditionally do have bigger bumps. I know, working with AP, we always, we can guarantee that if we do a number one, it's going to sell better than number two. And that's the market. But you can build up an audience and you can get bigger and bigger with time. But if you just keep rebooting it, people will, that also is a jumping off point. People can say, hey, I've been kind of enjoying it, but they're doing another number one. I'm just going to use this as an excuse not to read this one. I'm going to go read something else now.
Yeah, that's true. It's like a jumping off point. And so maybe the reboots have made things more difficult because people are expecting, you know what I mean? As opposed to just making the story every single issue a jumping on point. You know what I mean? It just becomes difficult. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know all the answers here for sure. But
I tell you what really annoyed me is when Marvel, and I think they stopped doing this, when they would do the huge number one on books that weren't number ones.
Yeah.
Just to get that spike in sales.
Right. Yeah. Isn't that funny? It seems like really generally that's what they do nowadays. they're all number ones, but it's not really, anything. They've got a new creative team possibly. Well,
I mean, there's no number ones will always be like a new story arc, but the way they put the number one on there is it dwarfs the actual number. So it could be like book 18.
Yeah.
But the 18 is kind of small next to the price, and there's a big one on there with the red highlight. So you're like, it's the first issue, and I'll even might say something like first issue in this story arc.
Right. It's true. We got a $5 super chat from Brian Christigo. I hope I said your name right. I should by now. I should know it. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. For $5, he says, howdy, Clint. Just wanted to drop a friendly reminder that my 6-gun guerrilla campaign is at 68% with 2 days to go. Thanks for having me on. Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. And your book looks really, really, really good. Everybody has good things to say about it. 6-gun guerrilla. I hope that it gets more attention. That's really close, 68% to getting funded. That is super close. And then, yeah, Brian's following up here with and asked Chuck about the Dirty Harry versus Batman comic he wanted to do. I would love to. I don't know. I think we're missing boats here, but Chuck Dixon has not popped in yet. So
that would be a cool comic. And Batman's crossed over with so many people. I could totally see them actually doing that.
Yeah. Let's see. Here's a unpopular opinion. Snyder's Batman run is awesome. No, I actually, I loved the first 3 trades worth, first 3 volumes, and the rest was fine. But those first 3 I thought were amazing. The Court of Owls, City of Owls, and the Joker one, Death of the Family. I thought those were great.
I mean, Snyder is a solid writer. So, everything he's written that I've read is good on some degree. I thought a lot of the Batman run was good. The only thing about his writing style that I don't like, and this is actually very common, a lot of writers do this, is that there's a lot of, I wouldn't call it exposition, because exposition is like you're actually explaining something, but just a lot of introspective dialogue. You'll have this whole page just filled with dialogue about, what the characters think and feel, and how that these events remind them of something in the past that's not really relevant to the story. And I'm just kind of like, why am I reading this? I mean, it's real written. Yeah. It sounds kind of cool. And I get it that they're trying to capture this mood. Yeah. But I'm like, that's what you do in a novel. I'm reading a comic book.
Right. Well, yeah, and he can do it. He can do it better sometimes and worse sometimes, I think. And again, like the Court of Owls, I said, you can see that for sure, that influence of how he just has so much prose in there.
Right.
But it didn't seem like it was overdone. In some of the other things that he's written, it's definitely overdone. I agree. And so that's, I think that's him at his lowest, is when he gets a little bit too wordy with the extra stuff.
And I wonder if now that I think about it, I wonder if there's an editorial decision in DC going on about that, because it seems like almost everyone who's done Batman in the last 10 years has done a lot more of that than other characters I've seen.
Yeah.
Like, is that just something the editors are saying, it captures the mood, do all this internal dialogue, and I don't know, but it just seems like Batman is really heavy with it.
Yeah. Well, so this is from Scottish Spinneret. It says, imagine Snyder and Capullo doing Spider-Man. And we were just talking, I just saw, let's see, AL in chat said, stopped reading Spider-Man after one more day. I think of J. Michael Straczynski, his run on Spider-Man before One More Day. It was just, I loved it. And there was more of this introspective, but it was the right amount.
Which One More Day was?
I believe it was One More Day. That's where they rebooted everything, and Spider-Man sold his soul to bring back Aunt May.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I did not read that one, but yeah, I heard about that infamous story.
Yeah.
Straczynski is one of my favorite comic writers. Actually, he's one of my favorite writers, period. But
he's great. Yeah.
He lost me with Spider-Man when he did that whole story about Gwen Stacy having Osborn's kids.
Yep. Yeah.
I can't, honestly, he did some great things with his run, but I'll never forgive the Straczynski storyline, because I don't think of it as being part of Spider-Man. I just cannot accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That did, it shocked me. Up until that point, I thought it was great. Some people didn't like the spider totem stuff, that got brought up. That kind of complicates his origin story. I thought that was kind of cool because it was still somewhat up in the air. But I know that was controversial too. But yeah, the Gwen Stacy thing, that was kind of icky. I don't know.
It was so demeaning. It's so changed in a negative way.
Yeah.
Like a classic part of his not really backstory, because it was in the comics, but his history.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And I've never liked the idea of Green Goblin being back. I'm a huge Green Goblin fan. When I started reading the comics in the 80s, he was dead. He was very dead.
Yeah.
And then comics just got where they unkilled everyone, and I've just never been able to accept that Norman Osborn is really back, except for the Red Goblin storyline they did a, a, f- couple of years back.
Yeah.
Like around issue 800 of Amazing Spider-Man. That read like a really good Green Goblin story. So I had to go, okay, maybe it was worth it just for that one story alone.
Right. Let's see. Brian says, I think that in general, Snyder has done a pretty solid run on Batman, but I also don't think he's one of the great ones. Yeah, yeah, in general, like I think his Batman run is really good. I mean, yeah, I've seen some definitely worse ones, that's for sure.
I think that when the day is done, so to speak, that actually Scott Snyder, now whether or not you like the guy, you can say he's bad, but I think just as a fact that he will be remembered is like one of the great writers in comic books, like up there with Chris Claremont and then Frank Miller. I think he will. Yeah.
He's made he's made a big impact on comics. I mean, and he still is now. So, but yeah, he definitely has his flaws as a writer. I don't follow absolutely everything that he does. He used to be my favorite writer, and then I don't know. It depends on the book. Let's see. So Osborn kids were originally supposed to be Peter's kids. Now I heard that some of this, and I used to know more about it, but it's been such a long time. But some of this was editorial, the whole Spider-Man thing, and the One More Day, Brand New Day, whatever, One More Day, I think it was. And so I don't know where that begins and ends. I can't remember, but I know a lot of people are mad at Joe Quesada over it. And I also know that Straczynski said that he would never write comics again after that experience because of editorial and everything he had to go through. So,
I assume he meant non-creator owned one, because for a while he did a lot of creator owned comics after that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Through Image for a while. Then he was like pumping out Image comics like just all the time. And now that I think about it, I haven't seen any comic from him at all in years.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen anything from him, but he's just such a solid writer. Like it gets you. He just, I don't know. He did a great job. I still go back and read. I can't remember the book, but just his beginning of Spider-Man, where Moreland's there. It's just such a great story. The stakes are so high. Rulon says, "Hey, Rulon, great to see you."
What's up?
Yeah. So have you heard anything yet from Chuck Dixon?
One last check on my email. I've got try to keep it open, and then nope. I think we're pretty safe. He's not going to come at this point.
Yeah, not going to happen. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to have to change the title of the stream. I feel terrible. But
the best video Chuck never appeared in. There you go.
The what? Sorry, say that again.
The best stream that Chuck never appeared in.
I know. we had a good conversation though. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. I would have definitely loved to pick Chuck's brain.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about someone who's been around, and Chuck will be well remembered too. Although with him, he's such a DC guy that I think, like look at some people like Frank Miller. Chris Claremont was pretty much just Marvel, so I guess you cannot. I was going to say a lot of these great writers were remembered, because they were so diverse in the companies and titles they worked for. But that Claremont. Am I wrong? Did Claremont actually do anything that wasn't Marvel?
Not that I know of.
Okay, and so I don't think Chuck will be kind of remembered like Claremont, but he'll be like what Chuck or what Claremont is for X-Men. He'll be that for Batman.
Yeah, though he did do the Punisher, but his run on Batman, I've got most of it. It's just so like the pacing of it is awesome. It's just he's such a good plotter, and he'd like push Batman to his edge,
Well, I mean, so many of the stories that came out in the last, aside from the Court of Owls stuff, I'd say that since the early 90s, most of the famous Batman stories are somehow influenced or were written by Chuck.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and he's I don't know. It's great. I got to go back now. We're talking about it. I want to read it again. And
Birds of Prey. I mean, he was the first writer on that title, and he wrote it for a long time.
Yeah. Here's a question. This can be for everybody. What's the best time period of comics? Assuming ever. I'd probably have to say Silver Age. That would be if that counts, does that work as a time period?
It's so hard to be objective with this. Yeah. I love the storylines best from, I guess it would be early Bronze Age, like mid 70s to late 80s. But that's when I got into comics. when I go back and reread a lot of that stuff, it does read like it was written for kids, so it's not quite as entertaining as an adult.
Right.
But there's still very memorable plot lines. Things like, for example, the Dark Phoenix saga, which they had to try twice to make it a movie and still haven't gotten it right. But they keep trying.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, it is definitely hard because they're just different. I don't know, all the great comics properties were just, I don't know, I just think of Stan Lee and just all the things that he created, all the characters. It's so lasting, but at the same time, it's not necessarily the books that I'm going for to read all the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know. I have really been digging indie comics though, especially this past like even just 10 years. There are a lot of good indie comics I enjoy.
If you're a big fan of indie comics, since you're younger than me, you might have missed some of this. But what you need to go back and look at a lot of the indies from the early to mid 90s. Yeah. That was a really good time for indie comics. Lots of great stuff came out, and the bar for entry for indies was much higher then, not because the indie companies were so picky. It's just that if you were going to try to produce a book yourself, you had to do offset press without the advantage of Kickstarter or the internet.
Yep.
So if to get a book out, well, like Turtles, for example.
Yep.
I mean, that same kind of thing where you put a book out and you do your best to try to make it good, and it maybe not look good at first, but if it's a good idea, it really catches on. But it has to be a good idea to catch on.
Right. Yeah, that's to make it lasting. Like there's been, and I wonder too, even now with all the crowdfunded indie books, we'll know in 10 years, 20 years, like which of these books really catch on and become something. I don't know. It's crazy to think about, but just, the statistically, most of the books will be, they'll be nice now, like they've come out, they're finished, and then, that'll be the end of it. But having lasting stories that continue on for decades, that's something else. And that's I don't know, that really is lightning in a bottle. Let's see. We got, Doc Salem is saying Space Opera Golden Age. Doc Salem. Yeah.
Oh, hey.
There's a book. Maybe we should look at that book too.
Is that Preston? Is that you, Preston?
That must be Preston.
That's his book, Doc Salem. By the way, if you guys don't know, Preston is one of the main artists in Thrilling.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to pull up his book.
So he's actually got 2 Indiegogos going on right now. He's got Thrilling. He's doing 2 of our stories. He's doing yours. Yep. And he's doing mine. He's doing Black Terror, and he's doing Silver Streak. And simultaneously, he's got this Doc Salem book that's going on right now, which is kind of a classic monster book, kind of an action adventure, classic monster.
Yeah, I like how it's like Victor Frankenstein, and I did read a section of this, so that was pretty cool. So thanks, Preston, for that. It's cool because it's like it's basically Victor Frankenstein becomes the monster, and then he's a monster hunter. And so I thought that was a really interesting and fun concept. And there you go. He's just very good with his poses. They're very, very expressive. Same with faces too.
I tell you what, Preston is an artist you want to watch. He's going to go places because he's got a lot of talent, but even more important than that, he's got ambition and drive. Because drive is a big thing. There's a lot of talented artists out there who just don't have drive, and they'll never get anywhere because of that. But Preston's got the drive. He's got the talent. He's got the ambition. He's willing to make the sacrifices, kind of pay his dues to play the long game. So he's going to be one that everyone's going to want to keep an eye on. Yeah,
this looks cool too. And I love how he goes back into as I'm looking over this, I'm remembering when I read it. But he's shooting I don't know if this is Cthulhu. He's fighting this giant Cthulhu-looking monster, and then it kind of goes back into his origin. So it's lots of action, jumps into his origin. He did such a good job of making this look like a really old-timey, like almost like a video, old-timey,
right.
What they call it, a film or something, recorded on film. Really, really, really cool book. So that's a good one. This one didn't get enough attention. I feel bad too. I'm like, I want to promote that book.
He's running that for 2 months though. So that's what he told me. So it should still be going on for another month.
Oh yeah, 34 days left.
So you'll have plenty of time to promote it for the last half at least.
There you go. I'm gonna post this link, and yeah, I need to have Preston on, and we'll talk about his book. Doc Salem says take 2 aspirins. Yeah, maybe for the getting your foot blown off. I don't know what that was in reference to. Yeah, so I posted that. Yeah, if you're interested in the book, I put the link there, and he's one like, man, he just puts his head down and works. And I've seen art. He's the artist on the Silver Streak. He's been really, really great to work with there. It's been cool because I just wrote the script and sent it over, but he sent me pages so quickly back. Like, hey, here's these pages. How are these? And so, yeah, I thought he did a really, really great job. And then this is his own book. This is his baby. So that's another one worth checking out, along with, of course, Thrilling Comics. Maybe I should search that up one more time here, too. Thrilling Comics. There it is. We'll get it open. I'm going to post the link for this one as well. 85 backers so far. And both of these are totally within reach to get funded.
But just don't wait, because there isn't a lot of time.
Yeah. Nope. Yeah, it's one of those things. Get in, because then it also pushes other people to get in there too. So, all right. Well, David, any final words? I will have to try again and get Chuck Dixon on. I'm gonna have to change the name of the stream so no one feels like they were bait and switch. Bait and switch. Yeah, I do appreciate though everybody that came by and watched. It was cool. We had Peter Samedi watching. We had your boy Zach, Comics Matters with your boy Zach in the chat as well. That was really great. So yeah, all stars, all in the stream here up in the chat. Appreciate that. And yeah, I guess we'll get going then. Thanks everybody.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. See ya.
See ya.